But anything to add to this? And I have one thing to add, and I think that's the planning from strategic planning. We wanted to do all of that, and it's under planning. We have these two items, but I think we need one where we flush out exactly what we want to do for that citizens engagement piece and who's going to do it and when. That was...
Or at least go over the plan that we did, so we know what
Yeah.
So the strat plan.
Yeah.
The great strat plan in it?
Yeah, we'll put in a strategic plan.
if we're gonna meet one.
The other thing that I was saying to you guys before, and I don't know if we want to add it on as a data and discuss it at all, is do we want to do what a lot of other municipalities do in the summer and sort of cut back one meeting? We're challenged with it.
Bringing that to the next meeting.
Bringing that to the next meeting?
Yes.
Do we want to talk about what the date is? Are you good?
I picked kind of mid, I picked kind of mid-month on both.
So what are you saying, Brad? You just do like a one meeting per month in July and August is what you're recommending?
We'll discuss it, yeah, at the next meeting.
Council meeting, that's right.
Okay, anything else for the agenda?
One other story that we talked about under placement of clock, but I wanted a date for like a sesquicentennial wind-up, a mural unveiling appreciation for volunteers that have helped us out, as well as the handing out of the pictures or the gifts we have for the schools, like for their participation. Do you want to just stick that under clock placement?
I think we could do that under the strategic plan because we wanted to, you know, all of the things that we want to do and when we want to do them and who's going to do it and that kind of stuff. Or do you see it fitting there or somewhere
Well, it's
else?
not, I mean, it's kind of community under citizen engagement, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I was, yeah, that citizen engagement piece.
Yeah, just wanted to sort of.
We don't want to forget that part. Okay, nothing else? Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda with the one addition?
I'll make motion.
All right, all in favor? Carried. Citizens Appreciation Barbecue. And this is where we sort of get into all of these things that tie together that we want to do. Which dates, right? Yeah, go ahead, Donna.
Okay, so is there a motion with this?
Yes.
You can make a motion, and then if they want to defeat it or whatever after the fact, then,
Okay.
but you can put a motion on the floor so we can discuss it, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
Did you want to make a motion? That's a no, I guess. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Arlen.
I'll make a motion that we move the barbecue, the Citizens Appreciation Barbecue, to the July 1st celebration for this year.
I was gonna say the same thing just now. That's scary.
All right. We got a motion. We can start discussions.
So where are you thinking of having that?
Well, I think with the success that we had last year at the Jason Park, what I was thinking, right?
So are you just thinking of having the barbecue, or are you having other events at the same time? Because there were many things going on.
Started discussion there, so that's just the
And
fact of having the barbecue.
just from the sesquicentennial and seeing you guys and talking to you guys or whatever, it was not an easy feat to do, to have all of that organized. So I'm not sure if we have the time because we basically have a month to do it.
It was a lot of work and a lot of coordination. I think if we were to decide to do it this year, it would be easier if we could get some of the support that we had on board, because what we did do is set up a fairly busy day, but with a lot of help from CRC, Marigold, other groups that took hold of their part of it and ran with it. So we had to coordinate it. Nancy and I did a lot of work coordinating it first, but if everybody said, hey, you want to do the same thing, that part of it's a little bit easier. One of the biggest parts of the success was the fact that we had music and we had a band. If we don't have the funds or the ability to have a band, it might not be as successful. So the barbecue is important, or some sort of food, and then the music part of it. And that would be what we would need to coordinate. I have to say that a lot of the other activities, if we stepped outside of the Canada 150 theme, which we were in charge of all the Canada 150 stuff, all the other stuff was run by those community groups, right? They brought their own giant checkers and Jengas, and Peavine Inn brought their stuff. So a few phone calls and some coordination could get that stuff kind of going. But if we don't have if we don't have the music, we don't have the people staying there. People stayed all day long, listening to the music, having a hamburger, want to have ice cream, and playing games, right? So if we minus the music part, so maybe that's something we need to consider.
Councillor Gilroy.
Well, considering that, I was just thinking that it would be a good time to possibly do the Susquehanna wrap-up, because Susquehanna was all about Canada's birthday. And I don't know what was left over as to balloons and anything like that, but it'd be kind of cool to hand those things out as well. And just, because we'd have, whatever was left over from the 150, we could hand those things out. We could hand out some of the postcards from the mural, and so there's lots of things for people to do. And I know that, there was a lot of people that were interested, and we've been talking about this a lot. So if we could do that at o'clock, and it would be a very good time thing. Plus, Councillor Rose has mentioned a couple times how people really would like to see something here on July 1st. And we could see if you could use it almost as a test that would they do it 2 years in a row as opposed to a one-up special occasion. This would give in a sense, to see if the community itself would support it more than 1 year and would solve the community engagement, a few of these things put together. So I'd be in favor of July 1st for mixing this together.
Nancy, did you have your hand up?
Yeah.
I wasn't sure you were kind of...
I think in the end we still only paid less than $5,000 for that whole thing. That's with all our giveaways and the band and the hand games. That was with everything. It was less than $5,000 we paid.
Yeah, I think we could probably pull off a band and a barbecue for about $3,000. But we have $2,000 put aside for this right now. Our band was $1,600. If they would come again, if they're not committed and they would charge us the same, then it would just be the cost of the barbecue. Because it's a Canada Day event and it's a big event, we might be able to get some sponsorship for the food. We might be able to talk to IGA, we might be able to reduce that cost a little bit. So that's the big cost. The rest of it, because we were doing Canada 150 stuff, we don't have to spend any of that money. And then the other games and activities were all free and donated. So.
Councillor Rose and then Councillor
Rose?
Smith. Or Councillor.
You're looking good today.
Yeah. You're looking good, yeah.
Carry on.
Yeah. I'm reading your mind.
The other reason why I was saying that, and I agree with you, I know some of the band members, we could probably talk to them, right?
Personally.
And we haven't moved that stage out, which we were going to do, but if we're going to do this, then I won't touch it until after we're done that. It's already set, ready to go,
Yeah,
right?
perfect.
So
And then we can move it right after.
it's all there, yeah. So that's food for thought. It's already there, ready for a band, so.
So are we separating the unveiling of the clock from the barbecue?
We kind of have to.
Yes?
Oh, if they do it in the park, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And talking about your giveaways, we gave all that away at the Meet the Council.
You still have some left. There's still some.
Oh, okay.
Did you have another comment?
I thought if something that Councillor Stenhouse had said previously, and that was we have a number of community groups we give or support. And I was thinking that even if you're looking for something like cleanup and setup, I bet the football players would be willing to do some volunteer work, and we could support them that way. And they do the bottle drives and all the rest of the things on July 1st, so that that would be something they can give back to the community.
I actually had a different vision of that. It's a good idea,
I'm
but
not thinking like Rose.
but my vision was if we call on these people who are asking for support, let's have a couple guys, if we could, people from the golf course, all dressed up golfing, promoting the golf course. A couple of babas from the Ukrainian Cultural Society promoting theirs. Promote. It's a chance, like they could be handing out the burgers and stuff and promoting what we have in their uniform type thing. That's what I was suggesting on by calling in some of our sponsors, the people who are asking for support. The amateur rodeo, have a couple of cowboys there saying, come out to the amateur rodeo. It's their chance to promote what we have. That's when I said calling on some of the people that we sponsor.
I like the idea. It's just the key is who would do it, right? And that's the who's going to organize.
You could offer to the golf club if they want to
No,
set up a little miniature golf
Yeah.
to promote memberships.
But we need somebody that's going to take this and lead it and drive it and run with it. That's the key, right, to getting it organized. And I know last year it was mainly Debbie and Nancy, and I don't know if they're up for doing it again or if somebody else wants to take it on, but it's a lot of work. I like it, but who's going to do it?
So Brian, do you have administrations, like do you guys have staff that you can have help out? One of our challenges last year, like taking the lead and making a few phone calls and being lead on organizing is one thing, but having to set up all the chairs, take down all the chairs, clean up all the garbage, like everything got dumped on us. Like there was nobody, we didn't have anybody from Public Works, or Recreation. So we've got these departments, right? Public Works, Recreation, we've got people, we've got paid staff that could be part, do they have any route time, or are they're just too?
You can't force them to work a holiday, so.
Some of it's
Staff
prep,
holiday.
right? Some of it's prep, like even loading, bringing the tables and chairs to the arena and getting them ready to load. Like so, we just had to hold them out. And no, but you're right. You can't necessarily.
We could do that stuff, but the actual to have somebody there on July 1st is.
It was a lot of work
I know.
packing those chairs and bringing them home that day,
And I know
right? And
there's talk in the coffee room already. You got both guys going camping or whatever that weekend already. So.
Right, and the other opportunity, and we can not necessarily make a decision, but we can potentially bring it to recreation, because this is a recreation event. Part of the opportunity for efficiencies in moving recreation as a department of the town is, can this free up, time and energy to do events, right? Because this is an actual event. I know that we're still dealing with the July 1st thing, which is something we have to see if anybody's interested in, but the recreation department runs other activities and they run them fairly efficiently. Like they do the seniors barbecue and they do that with there's 2 or 3 of them that run a barbecue for 500 people without too much trouble, right? This is what we've got is a barbecue for we had a barbecue for 1,000 people, but maybe there's value in having that conversation to see if they're interested in considering that to try it as an event. They were really who we had for support in the end. Like we did have recreation there helping us set up, and they were in the background helping with this Canada Day event. So maybe this could become a recreation event. This could be a trial year, as Councillor Gilroy said, to see if we would get the response from the community. If it does, it could become an annual event, and then we would just have to schedule recreation accordingly to make sure that there's people there and they know ahead of time that part of their job is having to work Canada Day, to make sure that we have somebody running that event. Because
do
it's
they
hard
get
to have a
paid?
volunteer group. You can't.
Yeah.
The county puts on a barbecue, but it's their staff that run the barbecue. Okay?
And that's
Like,
the
you can't do
difference
it-
of
that's
being
right.
on a stat holiday and being on a regular work day. That's a big difference, right?
So should we consider a different day than the stat holiday? The following weekend? Or during the week?
Go ahead. It's a good question.
When I had brought this forward about having a citizens appreciation barbecue, in my mind it was something that would be very simple. To have it here at the, on the lawn of the town, and just having hot dogs and hamburgers, free and whatever, just thanking the citizens. I hadn't envisioned like a big thing, and my concern with, I like everyone's ideas, they're all great, but I think we have a month, and I don't know if that's enough time to coordinate, because you contact these organizations and I'm not sure, I'll have to get back to you and see what we have available, if we can do it or whatever. So I don't know if we have enough of a time frame to accomplish a band and all those other things similar to what you had for the sesquicentennial kind of thing. I can't remember when it was. This was probably 8-10 years ago now, because I can remember that the town had put on a barbecue at the Sports Palace, and they were just cooking, and people they had a whole stream of.
That was Public Works Week, I think.
And there was hordes of people there. It was from 11 till 2. It was not a big time frame. That's sort of what I envisioned, and a cake, thanking the citizens of High Prairie. That kind of it was very simple. And on a Saturday from, like I said, from 11 till 2.
But
kind of
Saturday
thing.
would be the same thing, because we don't have staff on Saturday. It'll still be overtime.
But what would their staff be doing, is what I'm saying. Because all we would need is the fire department's barbecue.
Still the same setup, and takedown?
Just the fire department's barbecue. We would get the burgers and the hot dogs, and we would serve them, and we'd have,
Tables?
whatever tables, and that's sort of basically it.
Yep. Councilor Corley.
I think I'm swaying to what you're saying here, Donna. I do think that, I think it would be mixed up with the July 1st. What I was just thinking about when you're saying that, what are we trying to do here? We're trying to say thank you to the citizens of the town. So I think it would confuse it by putting it on the July 1st. Now that I think about it, maybe it is better to do a midweek barbecue. You think a midweek or a weekend?
Midweek for me.
Closer to the end of August.
For me, during the day is a write-off. There's no time for me during the day.
The only reason why I was thinking that is because why not have it so that all of our staff here, we can kind of maybe slow down the office, have all the staff come out and take part in the barbecue. Even close the office for the afternoon or whatever. Have a nice barbecue and do not just a citizens appreciation, but do a town staff appreciation too at the same time. Something like that. I'm just throwing out an idea, and have it right on the front lawn. Have the barbecue parked right here, right out in the open, and put a couple tents right here, and just say here it is, and right out in the middle of the open, with a couple big banners saying basically citizen appreciation, citizen and staff appreciation for the town of High Prairie.
We could do it the Friday before the long weekend, so it's sort of.
Well, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
a celebration.
Like to
instead
kick
of
off the long
Sunday.
weekend.
Yeah.
Kick off that long weekend, so.
Like
Because
talking in August.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not, I thought it was
Or-
July 1st weekend, sorry.
No, move it away from the July 1st weekend. Put it maybe closer to the end of August before the September long. Something like that. Where I'm just thinking I'm just throwing out ideas.
I think whether we do it a Saturday or a July 1st, we have the same challenges. We don't have staff, we have to have pre-set up, and we have to have clean up, and we have to take down. So a weekend or July 1st is going to have, they're both good ideas, but then we just have to have people either volunteering, or we have to okay staff, and we have to find that there's staff that's willing to do it, right? Otherwise, we're with Arlen, then we're a Friday or a Thursday or a Wednesday afternoon barbecue, so we can have staff to run and organize it. Counselors can show up and help out and support it, but you're not necessarily in charge of the entire event. And then I would support any Friday, but I do think you're gonna get more people at the end of June, before, like, school's just ended, people haven't taken off yet on holidays. Otherwise, we lose a lot of people that take off on holidays throughout the summer. So then it's hit and miss as to if you do, I guess you could do a kickoff to Stampede. There's lots of people around for that. Like something where there's already people coming to town for, because oftentimes our town's kind of empty on the weekends in the summer.
To do it before our rodeo, though, our staff is pretty busy with all the prep for the parade and all that stuff, right? It's pretty extreme times for the town, for the prepping and everything. It'd be pretty congested, I think, for planning. It'd be pretty tight, in my mind, anyways.
I actually do think that there's a lot of people that are looking for something for Canada Day, so it'd be nice to stick to it.
For the rodeo, I know we're cutting grass and picking garbage and making sure everything looks good for the rodeo, plus the banners, plus.
It's busy.
Yeah.
Busy time. What do we have for scheduling as far as, like, say before the weekend, or the Friday before the long weekend, September long?
September long?
Yeah, before, like, I'm saying the end of summer, beginning, is that too late?
Wait, are you talking the end of June?
End of August. August 31st would be probably.
Ernie?
The only thing I caution is, the only thing I caution there is a lot of people unfortunately go school shopping and that kind of stuff that weekend, right? They leave town.
Just trying to give it some distance between
That's thought about
some of the major functions in town, right? So it's not overlapping. We don't want to compete against other functions going on in town. And that's all.
So what function are you thinking it's competing with if we stuck to the July 1st long and went to the Friday?
Because they're getting confused between the July 1st holiday and this is just an appreciation.
That was what I was thinking. Well, I guess if we're doing it here up front.
You're doing exactly the same thing, but you're doing the Friday before the long weekend. So it actually feels like, because I think that there are people that appreciate it, that we did something. A lot of people came up and thanked us and said, you know what, there's nothing for us to do in town for July 1st. We have to go to Joussard, we have to go to Triangle, we have to leave High Prairie to celebrate Canada Day. This was, it was a good surprise that there was an event. So if we're doing something, if we're deciding not to do it on Canada Day because of like staffing issues or whatever, doing it the Friday before is still, to me, feeling like we're doing something for the Canada Day weekend. So we're not totally walking away from offering the community an event. We can still do a smaller form, like of music. Maybe we can still find, it could even be like what we did last time was we had a band hired, but that band actually brought in other people more of it on a volunteer basis, just to I think we had some extra jamming. Exactly, you could have a jam session where we could actually invite people. Maybe it doesn't have to cost us a whole lot of money, but that having that music right there on a Friday afternoon, kicking off a long weekend, still it accomplishes two things. It's that citizen appreciation barbecue that Donna would like us to do, or we all agree with that's a good idea. Yep. But it's also Canada Day long weekend, so we can still say Happy Canada Day, like we're actually doing that event, and then everybody can still go off and celebrate in another community or at another event, whether they're going camping or whether they're going to drive to watch the fireworks in another community or something.
Brian,
I guess my point in it was that I was trying to put a couple different projects together. The idea that we are sponsoring all the food in that, so that people would have to pay for food at a Canada Day barbecue, would be a great citizens appreciation. We could put a banner to that effect. This is our gift to you as a thank you. I'm sure that there's probably a list that was set up in the report from the committee back to your committee, the Siskiyou Centennial Committee, of what was done and who was contacted. And I tend to believe that this would be sort of a team builder project for the council. If we had a list and we were asked to, each of us take one thing or two things, could we do it? I think we could, because you've already got people who, we know that there are certain people who can make quick decisions. Farmers Market possibly could make a very, they wanted to come back again. They said that at the end last year. The Burger Baron, who supplied all the ice cream last year, I'm sure he'd be willing to bring his ice cream out again, and a few others. And as I said, if we even offered the opportunity for something like the golf club and said, you want to promote your stuff? Set up a little miniature golf course on there, a putting one for the kids, and at the same time advertise your memberships. Show them how much fun it is. And so it could be a win-win where Sesame Centennial, the great time of putting the clock out there, any other special days, and then an opportunity to support, other than in big monetary ways, some of these struggling groups. Because once again, I think of the golf course and just talking to a brand new intern who's here, a student, one of the first things he said is, do you have a golf course here? And just as Councillor Rose keeps saying, our amenities are very important to keep people here. So if we can help them to raise awareness and get some support, maybe they can get the money for some of the renovations without fully coming to town.
Give girls their free junior golfing at a family event.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's a good concept, right? But can it come together?
Yeah, well, if we had the list, we could actually say, is this possible if we split up and do things that were within our venue, like our abilities, back to one person only saying, here's our results. So.
You two having your little private convo over there?
Yeah, sorry, well, we just. But we need.
So, we've got several different dates, we've got several different ideas around it.
We're almost down to one weekend, Canada Day and the Friday before.
Yeah, if we're gonna do it that way.
That was one, yeah. We could, because we could actually explore some of the options as to whether or not there's even, because CRC and Marigold were key to the entertainment. If they're not available, I would say there's not even an opportunity to do anything much for Canada Day. If they're interested in doing it, they would say, if they agreed, then they would be running most of the kids' activities. And a phone call to a band or somebody that can perform. If those two things could come together within a couple of days, you might be able to have most of the components for a Canada Day celebration, aside from, I mean, and you know you still need a volunteer group, but if those things can't come together, then there's no sense even trying to pursue a Canada Day event. And then I'd say just do the barbecue on the Friday before.
Are you willing to make those calls?
I can make those phone calls is where I was going, just to see whether or not, but I don't want, like, if it's better for us to just make a decision and choose another weekday.
We could pick that day, the Friday before the Canada Day, and then see, you know. Well, even if we don't go big with the extra things like the band and the activities through the Children's Resource Council and stuff, and just go with the barbecue, right? We can still do that on the same day. It is during the day, though.
Well, if I have enough notice and stuff, I can probably swing it. Like if we know for sure that we're gonna do just a simple barbecue, we'll flip the burgers. You know, as town councils will come, we'll flip the burgers, and you know that kind of stuff. And do I don't know if we can get somebody to come and play, just you know for 4 hours, you know, and just see if we can have some music, and that's sort of it. Like I just wanted it simple.
So did we want to just focus on the Friday and still look at a barbecue?
I like the idea of the Friday, because that still gives people the Canada Day weekend, but it still sort of
Celebrates it a little.
like, I mean, we can still have the Citizens Appreciation, we can call it that, but we can still have, you know, we could get a Canada Day cake, you know, and still wish people Happy Canada Day kind of thing.
I think that's probably a good alternative.
I kind of like what the mayor and Mr. Martinson said about having a date and that, and if we actually went for the July 1st and couldn't do it, our backup date would be the barbecue on the Friday or a Saturday. So therefore, our number one would be the nice big one that we could put everything together in, but if we can't do it, our backup is a normal barbecue. It's still, as opposed to flipping it the other way around, I'd like to see it, the bigger one first, and you make the phone, if you want to volunteer to make phone calls, make the phone calls from the list. Within a couple days, we get an answer of what the initial responses are, and then if it's not going to be a go, we focus on the other barbecue. And it's only investment of a couple hours that you said you're willing to do. It's a win-win.
The 29th.
It's the Friday?
It'll be Friday.
June.
It's June 29th is the Friday.
So is that, how does council want to proceed? You want to do the Canada Day as option number one, and if it doesn't work out within 48, 72 hours, we go to plan number two, which is Friday? Or do you want to just stick to the Friday?
The Canada Day one will be a lot more difficult because, like I said, moving the chairs and all of that, putting in JC Park is a lot, that's a much bigger plan.
My preference is Friday.
Yeah, I just think
If
it'd be
we
simpler.
can get somebody to come and if we could get a couple of people to come and play guitars or whatever, don't necessarily need a band, a couple of people who can play, we want to come and strum for,
You probably get a better chance on the 29th for that than you would on the 1st, because most of the time I think you're always triangle home. If you're talking about the people you're talking about.
Yeah.
You see that? We have a meeting. At 10 o'clock, we could show up for noon. But yeah, I just noticed that.
I physically will not.
And it says an extended meeting.
Yeah, I told you, when I picked that date, I said I wasn't going to be here.
so you're talking about June the 29th.
Okay, so we had a motion. Did you want to amend your motion?
Do you want me to amend the motion? Is that?
I'm hearing that.
Leave it at the first, or just amend it to say that, the addition of a second backup date.
You want me to read my motion?
Read me my new motion.
Moved by Councillor Courtney that council host a Citizens Day barbecue in conjunction with the July 1st Canada Day celebrations in JC Park, or an alternate date of June 29th
Friday, the June 29th.
at on the Civic Square.
Can you read that again?
That council host the citizens.
Microphone on.
Sorry. That council hosts the Citizens Barbecue in conjunction with the July 1st Canada Day celebrations in JC Park, or an alternate date of June 29th at the Civic Square.
I'm good with either. I don't mind looking into the Canada Day thing, but it may be just as well received on the Friday. And it could be potentially similar to what you're saying, where we can still give away the Canada Day stuff, we could still theme it. The other advantage of doing it on the Friday is some of the other conversations we're going to have is about an unveiling, about a Canada 150 wrap-up, right? An unveiling of the mural clock. We might be able to throw this all together on the 29th, and I'll do it all here between the museum and the town office. So there's more to it, like even if we...
So do you want to physically say just the 29th then?
I'm just
Do you want to
saying...
change it so that it is actually that 29th and we set on a date now? Instead of trying to go back and forth for another couple weeks and trying to figure out when.
I think we can still do a lot on the 29th and have those activities and stuff, and it could still be a bigger event, but it's just how big will be, how those phone calls go, and then it just makes it simpler, but still a big event, and we can do it.
Okay.
I was just thinking, I just thought of another event you could possibly have, and that is, since we were awarded the 2020 Horseshoe Championships, maybe Ray would like to have a few horseshoes going and things like that, promoting things that have been really positive in our community. and things that are coming to be very positive in our community. So
There you go. That's your job.
okay. I have no problem trying to find some of the people, as I said, the football players and some of the other associations that would help actually set up. I have no problem with that. I would actually take that on if you were going to do it.
Well, I think we'll be able to use some of the townspeople now, right? For the setup and the takedown on the.
Some of these guys are doing cleanup at the rodeo and other places, so they're willing to do that kind of work.
Okay, so I think I'll amend my motion to just the 29th. How's that?
That's good.
Friday the 29th, Friday afternoon, 29th.
All right. Do we have a time? Would we go from 11 till 2 or 1?
That's usually what they run their barbecues, 11.
Usually 11 to 2.
No, it's 11:30 to 1 is the normal time for a barbecue. That's what we've been running with the college all year.
Sometimes in the lake, I'll run my barbecue from 9 in the morning till 9 at night. You never know.
But yeah.
Or runs 9 at night till 9 in the morning.
Because it's a little bit more than just, I mean, the college keep
Yeah.
on just.
Yeah, I know.
You go 11:30 to what, 1:30?
11:30 to 1 is what we do.
1 o'clock today.
It's not always about the college, mister.
No. Okay, so we have
Yep.
the motion, 11:30 till 2. Is that what you wanted to do?
Or later if need be.
I mean, you can run a little bit later, we can advertise at 11 till 2.
Yeah, for sure.
And then if it's
Oh, that's
successful and there's
not
people
so.
around and there's food left, you can keep on flipping burgers, I guess.
All right,
Okay,
so we all got the motion, we're clear?
this is a citizens appreciation barbecue.
All right,
Okay.
on the 29th from 11 till 2, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Can we call it Citizen
11:30 to
Appreciation
2.
Canada Day barbecue? Oh, I know it's a Canada Day, right? Because you don't want
It is
people
a
to be confused.
citizens
Yeah, it's the wrong
appreciation
day.
barbecue.
Add Canada Day in this.
Yeah, that'll confuse
Money's
me.
the
On the Canada Day weekend.
Right, citizens barbecue on Canada Day.
You can call it Canada Day kickoff.
We're gonna make banners and everything.
We've got a big banner actually.
Citizens appreciation.
No, it says sponsored by Town of High Prairie. It's big, it's probably 16 feet long, 12 feet long. Just gotta find it.
Okay, moving on to the placement of the clock. And I thought we had decided on the placement of the clock, but we left it till then. I thought we were going with the museum.
Yeah, I thought we decided on the museum.
I thought we did.
Made a motion and no.
Because there was mention of the,
They could move it there.
I thought it was gonna come out.
To the Esso lot.
No.
Yeah, but we talked about the Esso lot, but we said
being
there's
an
nothing
alternative.
there.
Right.
But so the thought was to put it over there for now. And then if we wanted to move it, right?
The west side of the river.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a motion, I thought.
Okay, so where do we want to put it? We can,
I think the only thing that was discussed
Right.
was the
Museum.
mural on the east side of the.
That's
Yep,
right,
that
that's
was
the one
decided.
And that's the only one that was
Yeah,
decided.
but not the
Oh.
clock. We talked about the clock, but we never decided.
okay.
No, I
Because
Thought we
it was
decided both.
portable, we could put it here, put it there.
What, the clock?
Yeah, so where do we want to start by putting it somewhere? And like we said, it was,
The side of the sinkhole at ATV.
yeah.
In the middle of that. Right in the middle of the sinkhole.
Okay, Donna.
So the discussion we had was to put it on the corner of the, excuse me, the corner of the museum, right?
Yes.
Now, they have that little pocket park there by the east wall, like where there's a couple benches and then it's got the cement pad and whatever. I think that would be a better spot for the clock than on the lawn at the museum, because there's all those trees in front of the museum. So if you put it there, I don't know if you'll be able to see it.
You know what I'm going to suggest? That we go for a little walk and make a decision.
Let's do it.
Huh? Let's go. Yeah, it's
That's
not.
okay,
right.
we're
Let's
not
go
ready
for.
for
It's actually pouring.
Is
Okay,
it?
We're not ready for it.
I can't tell if it's raining.
I-
anymore.
You guys go and look and let us know.
Well, I just say if we go.
McIntyre Park.
No,
It's
that's
pretty-
not,
pretty
a
good.
nice
Oh, is it?
open
Oh, okay.
spot is right in front of the post office.
All right.
Really wants to go.
Yeah. Okay, let's get her back and so we can move along here. We got a hand up.
Okay, so, and the other thing is, with the mural and stuff, we can't do anything until those walls are painted and sealed. So it makes no sense to put that mural on the east wall until the walls are painted and properly sealed and varnished or whatever it is that they do. And I don't know when that's gonna happen, and I don't know how long that's gonna take.
2 days. It'll take 2 days.
And-
One day to seal it, one day to paint it.
And when? Do you know when it's going to happen?
Mike told me he was gonna have the girls painted as soon as they get caught up in their grass cutting, their first round of grass.
And I guess if it was a priority, maybe they can get it done too, right? Like if it's not a priority, it's not, it can happen whenever.
Because they had grass cutter extraordinaire up there. Holy.
Okay, Councillor.
Is this clock not the first step towards our downtown revitalization?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily?
It's a legacy progress, piece of-
I know, but it was kind of in conjunction, I know it was a legacy project, but wasn't kind of the idea was to put it downtown in our downtown, to start our downtown revitalization, or that wasn't involved at all?
I don't think it was part of the conversation. It's not a bad idea, but I think the conversation that it was brought up at our sesquicentennial meeting about having a clock in the
Okay,
town square.
so it wasn't really, okay, because I was gonna say, because we could look at the downtown corridor and try to find a place to put it downtown, right, like,
We talked about that at on Tuesday, and that was a discussion, but we said where, and that's where it got a little tough.
Physically have to go and
Yeah.
map it out and look and see what.
When we talked about McIntyre Park as being one location.
David, did your committee actually pick a spot for it, or was that a discussion that you guys had, or?
That was a discussion that never.
That should be basically the discussion that the committee should have actually made. but-
They did,
The
and
two locations the committee talked about were more the town office, like in front of the town office here, and the museum. Those were really the two spots. I don't think that they had the downtown in mind at all at the time.
Yeah.
I don't think that they're against the downtown or
No.
the Esso lot or any of those other options, but they weren't on the table. It was really just those two locations. But they were kind of split, so that's why I said, okay, let's
Yeah.
just take it back. They said, take it back to council and see what council wants. But I mean, that's not proving to be any easier than.
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, Councillor Stenhouse and then Councillor Hortley.
From Tuesday's discussion, I thought we had kind of, were on the same page that we wanted that clock out and in your face, like, out in the open where we could see it. By placing it on the east wall, it's kind of more hidden. Again, the west wall isn't much better with the trees.
Now, are you talking about the mural or the clock?
The clock.
Well, I'm not saying put the clock on the east wall. There's that little pocket park that's in front of the museum, between the museum and the old Golden Age Center on the south side of the museum. There's some trees there, and then there's like 2 benches and or 2 tables, and it's already cemented. And to me, that would be the spot for the clock. It's out in the open. You'll see it when you're driving. You'll see it both ways when you drive, like on the corner with the way Michael was describing it, was you're not necessarily going to see it because there's trees in front of the museum as well, and then you'll see it coming from the west, but you're not going to see it coming from the east. So in that little pocket park on that cement pad is where I thought would be a good place for it.
Councillor Corley.
so then so on the corner of the corner, you mean up against the museum? Or you mean where that little walkway is and there's the piece of wheat there?
There's overhang. You guys could actually stand in the overhang and not get rained on and point.
But what I was saying is you could put a right at the corner of the sidewalks. You know what I mean? Like put it right out in the grass, but in the corner, so that when you're driving through on all all roads. It's basically
You
behind the street, like behind the the street signs put right there.
So the museum is shaped like this.
Yeah.
Liquor stores over here.
Yeah.
Golden Age is here.
Yes.
And this is where that seat is.
Yeah.
She's looking at it here.
Oh, I was thinking right out here.
Just wait until they're done and then we'll get there.
That's what I was thinking. It was right out in the corner.
Okay,
There's that
Vern.
one big Spruce tree that's gonna be a problem there, though, coming from the west. There's quite a large spruce tree.
Oh, yes, there is.
Yeah.
That hides all that.
And I thought we did like when we talked on Tuesday, that we could put it in one location, and then if we did, I think most people would liked it if it could go on the Esso lot, if we got them to commit to putting the park in there, right? No? I don't know. Everybody would see it there though, right? It's
Just a suggestion is mid-block in front of the little cabin on the lawn. Just off the sidewalk, a couple of 3 feet.
just before you make the turn into the arena
Right
there.
in front of the little log cabin.
That too, yeah.
Yeah.
Just a suggestion.
Is it less likely to be vandalized there too?
Well, it's pretty visible by the cameras and stuff.
Right entrance.
Yep.
Well, that's an idea.
Councillor Gilroy?
Personally, I think anywhere around the museum is probably, for me, would be a good decision from an economic point. And the reason I'm saying that is when you give directions to places, if that clock is supposed to be a central focal point, you can say, at least right now, our tourism office is right by the big clock. Our museum is right at the big clock. If you want to go to the Sports Palace, you turn at the big clock. I mean, it's one of those things that if it's done right and is really wanting to be a focal point that people could then use for visitors to be able to see things quicker and faster and easier, the museum, wherever you decide to put it on the museum property, as long as it can be used as a direction finder, I'm happy.
Mark?
Has anybody actually seen the clock?
We saw pictures.
It's not a tremendously big clock. It's tall, yeah, but it's not big. So it needs to be
Where is it?
on its own.
Okay, so we can't walk to it.
It needs to be on its own, a place that you can physically see. Another place I know, Councillor Stenhouse said that by the post office on the Meridian that's going in New Street. Everybody would drive by it, and it's right there by itself.
What about putting electrical in there?
Everybody meets at the post
We're doing the
office,
street.
visits.
It's what?
We're doing the street, so the electrical,
Could be a run to it.
but it wouldn't be ready for the 29th.
Yeah, that's all right. It doesn't have to be
The
on
clock
that
is
date.
not, it's accessory centennial.
It's a Sesquicentennial Legacy Project, so it would be good for it to be unveiled there, but it's not imperative, right? You could unveil the mural on the side
It
of
would
the...
be in the middle of the street for traffic going both ways.
Do you
It's
mean
gonna be
on
on a 3 foot, no, when the street's done, there's gonna be a 3 foot, 6 to 8 inch meridian placed where the barriers are. And it could be, enhanced by flower pots or something like that too, like just sitting on the meridian. That is removable. Just a suggestion. Councillor Stenhouse had that on Tuesday.
Brian just suggested at the skateboard park, an entrance to the skateboard park too. You could, it's
Tell the kids what they make them home.
No, ignore that.
Lots of suggestions.
We just
Nothing
need
on
to
the west
pick
side
one.
of the bridge.
Map of Alberta's over there.
Yeah.
If you took Vern's idea and Councillor Stenhouse's idea, that would be the kickoff to downtown revitalization. If it was our first step, and then we could maybe look at how a possible change in the light light posts we were talking about might fit in aesthetically with it. You know, to help.
Goes to the post office.
Yeah, no, it's not a bad idea, and I don't mind the idea of the kickoff to downtown as well, like to start, like, kickstart a plan.
I mean, if that Meridian thing, because right now where those barricades are, there's like what, 4 of them there, 3 of them there. 4. So it's like, so when you're saying that there's going to be a Meridian there, is it going to be the same length as those barricades?
It's actually going to be probably 10 feet longer.
Okay.
To eliminate the U-turns that people
Yeah.
are doing.
Yeah.
And,
Did not.
and
'Cause,
it's
I mean-
3 meter, or 1 meter wide.
Yeah, okay.
And if the clock was to go there, a person could elevate it somewhat, so if it's hit, the bumper of the vehicle hits concrete and not the clock.
Now, I like that idea. I really like that idea in terms of those barriers will be gone. It'll be aesthetically pleasing. I mean, people will see the clock, and it could possibly spur, you know, sort of the downtown revitalization that we talked about. Like, if that's a definite option, I would go with that option.
I just need to know whether that's council's desire, because we are designing that meridian and that at this point.
And then you have to run power into it.
Yeah.
So can I just throw out a question here? We've talked about, in dealing with downtown, and that revitalization piece, we talked about turning it into one-ways. In that conversation, was that the post office street being, because I know that, I mean, we haven't made any
That was
decision.
one way, and then the other one was the
So
other.
this meridian doesn't have to exist then, right? If that was a decision, we wouldn't need the meridian?
Mhm.
If we turned it into a one-way street, we
Right.
would need the meridian.
Yeah, I love the idea if it stays the same, I really do, I think. But that was another, I thought, a fairly good idea to drive people downtown, to drive people in front of businesses and around. You know, there's actually good success stories for communities that have done that, because then you don't just go to your business and then turn around and go back. You have to, you're forced around the corner, and so there's merit to that idea. And if we're going to discuss that idea at all, then it changes this. But I wasn't sure if we were talking about the post office piece or just.
I know what you want to say, but you go and then you go, yeah. Vern, go ahead.
I need to know.
Yeah.
What's happening?
So
because
eloquently put.
We are in design phase right now, and the tenders will be coming out in a couple of weeks for this job.
It doesn't have to include that street though, it could just be the next one, right?
Okay, but even without the one-way, we are still forced to drive all the way down the street, come around to make a turn into the post office. So either way, even if you made it in, even if it stayed as it is, you're still forced to drive down, come around to enter the post office the same way.
But if we made it a one-way street, you wouldn't put a meridian in the middle of a one-way street.
No, but you're talking about having to drive past businesses. We still have to do that. If
Oh,
you
that's a good
if you
thing.
come through the
Same
lights
thing.
and you turn down that street, you still have to go all the way to the end, come around to park properly
bank,
in
right.
the parking lot. So one-way or two-way street, it doesn't matter. You're still forced to drive past businesses.
So you're talking from the post office to the bank.
Say again?
So you're saying you're forced to drive from the post office towards the bank?
Yeah, if you, okay, you go through the lights, and if you turn right at where the post office is, to do it legally, to park in front of the post office or in the parking lot, you still have to go all the way down to the four-way stop, make a U-turn there, come back to park in front of the post office, or pull into the parking lot. So
And I-
one-way or two-way street, it doesn't matter. You still are forced to drive downtown.
Right, but the bigger concept here was not just one-way street by the post office and towards the banks. It was going to the next street, so where the Park Theater is, one way, around the other side where the what is it? Kitchen Chaos, and you got all those little shops, like making that one way. So it was that whole big loop, right? So it's not just turn at the post office and then turn around and get back to the post office. It was like one way. It was just, the thought came to me that we better look at whether that's a real contender of an option, because if Vern's doing the street and we're talking about a Meridian, and then we decide, oh yeah, we're going to make it a one-way street, it seems to be a waste of everybody's resources at this time. If it's not a big, exciting sort of option for people for downtown, then
Well, removing those concrete barricades is
it's
a
great.
priority. It's a
Yeah.
priority. It's been an eyesore for many years. It's been a sore spot for a lot of residents. And
How long have they
the
been
sooner they're gone, the better.
Probably 7-8 years.
Wow, already?
Long.
I didn't think there was that long.
6 for sure.
Wow, time flies.
Okay, so we've got a couple of options on the table. I think we've talked about the museum just in there, and then we've been talking about on the street in the Meridian by the post office. Councillor Gilroy.
I will not be sarcastic about finally. But I thought that one of our major problems was that we had our peace officer talk to the owners of the land where the post office is to get permission so we could work a one-way there. And they did not give him a straight answer. In fact, I think if we look on, it may still be on Mr. Martinson's list, because the people who own that land have not given us any help in designing it so it's safe for all people.
If I remember right, they did approach East Prairie. They said they were not going to put up any signage in there. That
Because
was
we
what
wanted to
they
make
said.
it a one-way, because if we took the barriers out of there,
Well, we wanted the signs to help reduce the traffic and make it clearer which way you go in and which way you go out. And they said that they refused. So that's where it ended. It had nothing to do with the one-way as much as,
Well,
yeah. So that's where it
we
ended.
wanted to have it go one way in, one way out,
Yeah.
because of the congestion that caused it in the first place.
Yeah, and that's what it's supposed to be doing now, but it
So the
doesn't
barrier-
necessarily work. All right, so
Where's
we've
the
got-
clock going?
where's the clock going? We've got two ideas. Maybe we should put one out there and see if it passes, and if not, we'll go with the other one. Mr. Courtley.
I'd like to make a motion. I make motion that we put the placement of the clock in front of the wood cabin right here out in front where Vern said. There's a nice concrete place already. It would be protected. I guess that's not part of the motion. I'm just going on. Anyways, the placement of in front of the wood cabin.
Wood cabin. Oh, that cabin. I'm like, oh, he's got a whole other idea. Where's the wood cabin?
The log cabin. The log cabin right out front here.
Yeah.
Santa's cabin, right out front. Plain view.
Okay. So, all right, all those in favor? Opposed?
I guess you have your answer, Vern.
What's that?
I voted for it.
Oh, did you?
It was 3-3.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
That was
It was
4-2. 4-2.
You voted against it.
No, I voted for it.
Oh, okay.
That's actually what our committee wanted, so
Right.
they didn't have any idea. I mean, I love the idea of downtown. I think it's a fine idea, but I think we're a little premature with some of the other potential suggestions for downtown. I also think that as much as it's, it has to be wired in and it's pretty fixed, it's also movable, so we can just.
Yeah, but he needs to know there is a potential to put it there so he can put the wires there too.
Well, the wires can be directional and passed on. If there's a desire to even think about putting it there, we
We can
can put
change it.
conduit
It might not be a bad idea, because I think it's a great idea, and I think that opportunity, but I mean, everything takes a long time, right? So we don't know what we're doing downtown with the streets, and we don't know if the Meridian, you don't know.
Personally, from a maintenance thing, I like that idea actually as well, because sitting in the middle of the street, you need to protect it, right? And it's not gonna look real pretty if you're trying to protect it either.
And it's a solar clock that's gonna need sunlight with all the trees around.
Where it is in front of that log cabin, there's lots of, it's open space.
Okay, let's move on to the next item, which was the cannabis. Is there a motion on this one?
First, was there sampling? Sampling?
No, that's at the town hall.
Oh, town hall?
Yeah.
Oh.
Michael's going to bring some samples. Yeah.
As long as it's not at the school.
Don't take it.
Okay, so do we have a motion here? I'll make a motion that council gives first reading to bylaw 12-2018, amendment to the land use bylaw 05-2015. And we have the bylaw here.
We mixed it up last
On
That's why
Tuesday, it wasn't it was the same
twice.
one, yeah.
That's why it's here this today.
Yeah, so we could read it and make sure that we were happy with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, any comments on this one at this point? Councillor Gilroy?
Just a reminder that after this first reading for this and the other laws pertaining to cannabis, the bylaw committee has been asked to also look into the all the information released by AUMA, and we will be doing that. So just a reminder, that was asked for on Tuesday, and we will follow up on that.
You will be our experts at the town hall.
What do you mean town hall? We got it.
Oh, on Tuesday, we made a motion to have a town hall meeting
Not a town hall, but a town hall meeting.
on June 19th for anybody from town that wants to come in and express their views around cannabis in High Prairie and what they would like to see.
Buchanan Center.
A town hall meeting is just like an open mic where, you know what I mean?
Oh, I know what you mean.
And Arlen's busy that night.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
But it's okay, we do it,
He'll be planting.
radio stations are kind of.
Okay, so that's the 19th?
Actually, that's a good idea. We should invite the radio station
June
too.
19th. So what kind of format, sorry, what do you, put up a panel and answer questions, or?
No.
It's just, they're just gonna give suggestions to us because the following Tuesday is when we have the official, public hearing. So we want, because they won't come to public hearing, we're having a town hall, a citizen engagement, so that they can give us information, and if we need to change anything, we can do that and make sure that it's what the people want.
And we can provide maybe some documents from AUMA as to.
The voice of one or two that speak up isn't the voice of the whole community.
It's up to us to make sure they show up.
Well, and we might not get everybody, and what your concern is valid, that we just, because if one or two show up and they voice their concerns, that isn't the whole community, so we still have to use that, but we get to hear it.
Be careful of.
Yeah.
We're gonna weigh what they say.
But if you have 100
And our
people
ro-
showing up with concerns, then we need to address that, right?
Exactly. And we, as far as I know, we don't have a spot yet. We just have a date and a time.
Okay, so back onto our bylaw.
Okay. All right.
What do we, any concerns about this bylaw that you want to bring up? It's the first reading. We're going to look at it some more with what the AUMA is bringing forward. Councillor Corley.
That is the furthest we can be, or the 100 meters, or that's the closest?
Closest.
By the government.
Is it 100 meters only? I thought it would be more than that.
No, that's minimum.
I know, but
Okay, well, just wait.
We said
Yeah.
that. We can-
Shh, just wait.
I know.
We'll get it going.
with the cannabis law that's coming out, the municipalities can set the hours of operation that they will allow the cannabis retailers to operate. They don't have to operate from 10 till 2. You can set it from whatever time you want. You can set it from 10 till 9.
You can set somebody's business hours for them?
Yes, you can with the cannabis legislation. You can set the hours that they can be open. You can. And the other thing is you can set the placement between whatever your setbacks or whatever you want to call it on where that business is. Like how right now the government has, I think it's 100 meters. You can set it to 500 meters if you wish.
Okay. No,
Go ahead.
I was just wondering about that distance of 100 meters. So, from the schools, the closest school here to our downtown business core.
Is St. Andrews.
Exactly.
But that's still over 100 meters.
Yeah, it would be just.
Yeah.
No,
Councillor Gilroy?
that'd be at least 600 meters.
Yeah.
Good. All right.
This, of course, this one is strictly on production facility, as you know. The other one about the retail outlets, which is another issue altogether.
It says cannabis retail sales right here.
And production.
And plus, basically what we were given is, as Councillor Janaka said, the legislation as it stands now is minimum 100. AHS wanted us to do 300, but in choosing where we are looking at encouraging that sort of facility or retail outlet, considering all the other parts that they're going to regulate as to parking and things like that, because there's all sorts of ins and outs in this particular one. What we're looking at is we actually took the results of the survey as well, and that's why you're looking at downtown. 80% of the people who fill out those 90 surveys were looking at downtown as a place that they would approve of, because it's not residential, it's not near the hospital, it's not near the schools. That was one of the two places we were looking at suggesting that could be open for our development department, economic development department to work with, that would fit all the bylaws and all the different things that go with this law.
So just a question on that is the way it's written, can they, I mean, obviously it has to be a zone commercial. So any commercial zone doesn't have to be downtown. It could be any commercial zone, or have we limited this in any way, shape, or form?
We were looking at two specific types of areas that would meet the requirements. And one was downtown. The other is certain areas along Highway 2. Highway commercial.
Yeah.
But once again, it's limited there and it's discretionary because of where it could be in regard to how close it is to, once again, the hospital or other facilities like that. So, and there's all sorts of things. The reason we were looking at highway was its greater visibility, safety factors, downtown. That's where the people were giving indication they would like it, and it fits within that area. So we're looking at more than one option of where they could put it. But there's things such as you're not allowed to have any parking in the back at all. It all has to be frontage. Customer parking. It all has to be frontage and a certain way. So there's a lot of things we were considering when we put this together.
But it could go into, what I'm getting at is those zones are, in our land use bylaw, are spread across our town. And as long as it's in one of those commercial areas and it falls within 100 meters and the parking is there, they could go anywhere. It could be by the Peavine Inn, for example, right?
Yeah.
Anywhere. Okay. All right, I just wanted to make that, we're not isolating it. I got the impression that we're trying to isolate it, and I didn't see that in here.
Yeah.
So,
No.
No, that hasn't been done yet.
yeah, okay. So we've got first reading, Councillor Rose?
So are we saying that 100 meters is what we're all happy with, or we're just gonna do first reading and then consider amendments potentially going forward?
I think we'd hear what people would want, and that might be some of those questions that we might want to ask at the public
So
hearing.
100 meters is the hospital location now, which potentially can become a future commercial location.
Yeah, it is commercial, zone commercial.
Right, so is that potential, is that less than 100 meters from the school?
Is that from the door, from the property?
Because that's a
It's the
production
property
facility
line, it
size,
says.
Property line? Yes. So that would be less than 100.
so they wouldn't be able to do it there. Because I would say, that's a little close to school.
Which
No,
one?
It's gotta fall within the restrictions.
The old hospital.
Oh, old
I
hospital.
thought you said
Yeah.
the new hospital.
I'm talking about the old hospital. If that became a production facility, right, because it's a great big space, and I mean, I don't know what, you know.
Wouldn't make
Yeah,
it.
wouldn't make. Yeah, it's property line to property line, so that wouldn't fit.
It's not door to door. Okay.
Any other questions before we vote on this?
9.19.3. In here.
So the development shall not operate in conjunction with another approved use. So it can't be, Photoshop and.
Yeah.
Second
No,
cup.
it's specialized,
Yes.
one only business. Yeah.
It's a real special cup.
Well, no.
And that's
We-
coming
we
right
dis-
from the province.
We discussed that because Second Cup made a deal with the cannabis producer, so it can't be that way.
That's gonna be tough because in small communities, you're relying only on that to keep your door open. It's gonna be tough.
In our community, it'll be
I'm serious, I mean, small communities, I'm just saying. You still have to look at the business side of things. And the people that are gonna invest in your community and make a business in your town. Something like that for small communities, it won't fly.
That is
This
tied
is
to
the,
the
this is the
province.
law. This is not,
I know, I'm just saying,
It's-
whether, if that's on us, it's not,
No.
I'm just saying that
If you can't put other things in. Councillor Gilroy.
there is still some, just to help Councillor Courtney here, there is still some talk about it not just being a retail store, but there is some talk about a possibility of that working into a lounge, a place where people can sit and talk and stuff like that while there is still some talk and we've heard that and among a lot of the groups. So it may not be just walk in like a liquor store, grab your stuff and go. There may be, but it's not two straight businesses in the same way.
As long as it's partitioned, I believe, right? So it can be in the same building, but it's like a mini mall, so a space in a
No.
mall. You can't. Oh, see, there's, and other people
No.
have got different ideas of what they
That's-
can do.
That's not the legal. Legal is one standalone. Being able to see how everyone goes in, all the production items in glass cases so that you can't, it's secure.
Well,
It's a very,
you can read that differently, though,
Okay.
right? The business cannot operate in conjunction with another approved use. So when I read that, I just meant, to me, that meant I have to walk into that unit, right? So we look at downtown, the Vanderregen building, right? So that's all attached, but each one only has a shared wall. They have individual spaces, so they couldn't operate into one of those because it's attached to.
No, that's not what it means.
No, I think what that,
It means that you couldn't have a dispensary, marijuana dispensary, and sell donuts and coffee there too.
Right, in the same
In the
space.
same building.
But you could buy a building.
that would go hand in hand.
Okay, so for example, the Trademan Plaza, that's not the Trademan Plaza anymore, but you guys remember what that was, right? So that space was one building, turned into a number, like probably about 9
You have a
spaces
donut,
in there.
you know,
Could we have a dispensary as one standalone where they open their door, they walk into their space, that's all they sold, and then next door was Ann's Kitchen, right? So there was the kitchen, and then upstairs was the lawyers. Can you have a space like that? You
Yes.
can, okay, and that's
It's
what I'm
not the same
saying.
space.
Yeah.
you just can't have connecting doors.
No, I get that, right, and that's the way I understood it, was that, so you can't have a mini mall in where you actually walk in the front door and upstairs is the cannabis store.
No.
Yeah, I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is that the cafeteria part of it, or where you can use it, is not approved.
I'm not trying to create a cafeteria of it, I'm just
Well-
saying, like, remember, I'm just trying to get my head wrapped around it, so I'm looking at what we used to
Yeah.
have as the Tradewin Plaza,
Yeah,
thinking, what if there was one space in that plaza that was the cannabis store,
yes,
and then you had a restaurant, and you had a legal office, and you had a,
As long as they're not in the
I
same.
gotcha.
I'm not putting cannabis in the restaurant,
Yeah, I gotcha.
I'm putting cannabis upstairs.
Right,
On
okay.
its own,
Is
standalone.
that okay? You walk through
Yeah.
that mall, you walk through the kitchen, you go to the next level, and then there's a cannabis store. You can do that?
We'll look,
Everybody's
we'll
giving
look
me-
into
We'll look
that.
into it, yeah.
Once we
Yep.
see the AMA, we'll look into it and come back on the second reading.
One only because
Okay.
you have to vent it. And
No, you're not
everything.
that's production,
Not produced.
not sales.
It's just for sales. I think we can, I think in other areas, that's what they do, like they're in strip malls, they're in mini malls, right? Like in,
But you gotta
areas
meet
where it's
all the
legal.
government regulations and the venting and
okay.
stuff.
Okay, well, I guess we'll pass the first bylaw and then we'll just have to dig a little bit deeper.
And the other thing to look into is I thought that the province was recommending that they couldn't, one store, cannabis store, had to be at least 100 meters from the next cannabis store if you had multiple ones.
I thought it was the liquor store
Yeah.
that was the distance.
But I thought they were applying the same rules to cannabis stores. So it's just another thing to look into, because I thought, you know, where we say here, cannabis retail sales have to be 100 meters from a public school, a healthcare facility, or another cannabis store. I thought that was the way it was tied in. And like I say, I'm not sure, but we need to look into that for second reading. All right.
It'll go good with bakery too.
Yeah. All right, we got a vote on this. All those in favor, first reading? Carried. Let's take a 10-minute break and we'll come back and work on the actual strategic plan part of it.
Can you print me out a